Well, NELFUND was inaugurated and it was celebrated as a beacon of hope for Nigerian students pursuing higher education, which it still is, by the way. Today we'll be talking about NELFUND and its impact on Nigeria. A Nigerian student still smiling to this initiative by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Joining me to talk about the NELFUND's impact on Nigerian students, especially within this economic challenge, is the MD of NELFUND, who is Mr. let me even say doctor, if I'm permitted to use that word. Okay, let me use the word Mr. Mr. Akintunde Sawyer is joining us on this table at this point to talk about NELFUND. You're welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right, so let's x-ray NELFUND as it stands right now. Where are we even on this project?
Well, we are at nearly 500,000 students who have registered. We're at nearly 400,000 who have actually applied. We are disbursing to institutions. We're disbursing upkeep of 20,000 naira a month to individual students who have been approved. So we're doing well. We're really quite pleased. In 2024, we disbursed 18 billion naira. So far this year, we've disbursed 4 billion or 4.2 billion naira. In 2024, 128 institutions benefited. We've added another 66 beneficiary institutions in 2025. So we're pretty confident that we're doing the right thing, and that's really the state of affairs today.
So to a very large extent, the NELFUND projects tend to be sectionalized in the sense that most students from private universities will say that they are not partaking, even they have been excluded from this scheme. But how correct is this narrative?
Well, if the law says that we should include particular people, then we will. The law says that we should pay loans or give loans to students who are in government-owned institutions. Now, if you think about that very carefully, what I think we're trying to do here is ensure that government institutions meet the standard because they're being properly funded. They're non-profit organizations, and certainly the president would like it expanded into private institutions as well. But for now, the law that was passed by the National Assembly is one that says that we should only work with or give loans for people going to state-owned, federal government-owned tertiary institutions. We have to follow the law. I guess over time, it will expand further. I think one of the other things to put into consideration, other than we're trying to ensure that government institutions are properly funded, is the fact that those who are in those institutions, the government-owned institutions, are more likely to be the people who are struggling to afford education. And we have to focus on people who really need it. Over time, I'm certain that there will be some sort of expansion.
But to a very large extent, Dr. Akin Sawyer, Akintunde, I beg your pardon, a lot of private institutes are calling for NELFUND to even intervene. We have a lot of dropout even in the private institutions. How soon will the government look into this law and be able to amend the clauses and the certain sections of these laws to accommodate private university students?
Okay, I think it's important to establish a fact here. The fact is that the National Assembly, alongside the executive, make the laws. My role is to really ensure that we implement the law properly and effectively and ensure that those who should benefit. In terms of amendments to the law, it probably wouldn't come from me. It would probably come from people lobbying their
but to a very large extent, you can influence that amendment if you want to.
I don't think so. I think my job is to implement the law. as it stands. I don't think that I can bend it. I don't think I can change it. I think the way the legislative process works is that people lobby the legislature and ask the legislature to make changes that they think might be an improvement on the previous law. And I think generally speaking, that's how it works. When you're running an organization like this, it's difficult to start tinkering with the laws around it, because then, you know, there's a vested interest, which I think, you know, we should avoid. I need to be objective in implementing the provisions of this law rather than trying to expand it or make it, take it beyond the law. What we can do is that we can introduce guidelines that help capture, expand, include other people, but it must not go beyond the boundaries of the law.
So you're saying to a very large extent that if private university students, the demand from private institutes is higher, that there is nothing NELFUND can do, even in this regard, to even write to National Assembly to be able to accommodate them into the system?
Well, again, let me just try and explain.
All right,
we
please.
are running an agency that is implementing the law. We're implementing what the law says. Unless we find that there's something unworkable about what we're doing, it's really difficult to say, well, let's go and include, you know, other groups, for example. Trying to include other groups that are not within that law is really outside of our remit, unless the law itself is unworkable. I don't think that's the case here.
Very interesting. Now let's even look at the fact that, let's talk about NELFUND in its generality. The scheme has come to stay, one way or the other. We've seen students smile to the bank, but to a very large extent, even around December, a lot of students were saying that they cannot even access the portal. Neither could they pay their school fees because of one glitch or the other. But you are in charge of the NELFUND. Please, do you want to educate Nigerians or enlighten us on what actually happened? That students have not been able to access their phone so far.
Well, I'm not sure that I've come across that as a major issue. The site has been accessible to everyone. Not everybody has been able to apply because there are certain eligibility criteria. For example, you have to be a Nigerian. You have to have a matriculation number that matches with the one that the institution has provided us. You have to have entered the institution through JAMB. I'm not certain that, I'm not sure that we've had many issues with people not being able to access the portal. I haven't come across it. Doesn't mean it's not true. I just haven't seen the evidence of that.
Just of recent, we saw quite an uproar even on X handle, which is popularly known as Twitter, where students were agitating. Of course, you're smiling already, Dr. Akintunde. Mr. Akintunde, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
You're already smiling to this fact. but then let's marry this to the fact that a lot of people felt displeased about the outcome of what has been happening when students were clamoring on the fact that they've not been able to get the desired funds for them to go back to school, to write their exam and their monthly stipends. But you want to react to this?
No, I think the reality of it is that, we have a process that we follow. We receive applications without any human interaction. We review those applications. We confirm that they are approved if they meet all the criteria and all of the things that we ask them to provide. We then send the batched applications to the relevant institutions. The relevant institutions sign off that indeed these applications have come from students who are in their database and are confirmed and checked through as bona fide students still present in that institution. Then they send it back to us. Then we approve it again and send it out for payment. Anything outside of that process is going to be problematic for everyone, because if we don't do it that way, then we're going to breach a process. It's important to remind you that, and to remind everyone that we do not meet the people who apply for these loans, which means that it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we are carrying out as much by way of due diligence as possible and proper checks. Sometimes that leads to delays, but we have to protect the fund.
But a way of clarity on this matter, is there a time frame for the disbursement of this loan as it stands right now?
Well, we endeavor to disburse the loans from approval, from final approval, within 30 days. We're meeting that. From the time we have verification that the student has been confirmed by their institution, we will disburse within 30 days. That's the time frame.
So there's no time frame for when the student apply to the school and the school given clearance and all of this. Perhaps there should be a mandate to the school from NELFUND. I don't know how it operates, but I'm thinking along this line. There's no provision in this regards.
No, I think it's important to recognize that we're providing loans to students. Providing mandates to institutions as to how quickly they respond to the verification can be problematic because they have to carry out their own checks. We recognize that actually if they are slow about it, it's the students that suffer. But the truth about it is that we're not a regulatory agency. The only thing that we regulate is how the loans are disbursed. And that for us is where our mandate ends. We cannot go to institutions of state, institutions that are under the regulation of either the NBT, the NCC, or the NUC, and begin to mandate to them that they must respond to us within a certain time frame. If they don't, it's again the students that actually suffer. So we expect that the students are the ones who will go and see their institutions to say, hey, look, I've applied for a loan. We need to ensure that the institution doesn't deprive us of the opportunity to get the loan in time. NELFUND doesn't have the power to mandate institutions to respond within a particular time frame.
Well, to a very large extent, Mr. Akintunde,
Yeah.
it has been your ex that has been boiling. It has been your name that has been ringing the bell in every student's ears as it stands right now, even in the country. It has been a conversation between every student right now that NetPhone has become like a topical issue, even within the student space. Are you saying at this point that there's no way that your NELFUND, I beg your pardon, will be able to react to ensure that they facilitate this process to ensure that they get across to the student, to the university or the institutes that are involved to fast track this processes so that most students that can have access to phones will be able to access their phones? That's on one hand. Then again, NELFUND is designed to improve to ensure that students don't drop out of university. Now, if we have a case where you from your office, there is no fast tracking of the process, what's the guarantee that we will have more out of universities and school children, even in the country, even as it stands right now?
Okay, that's a really good set of questions you've just asked me. In terms of fast tracking, we are actively looking at improving the technology and improving the connectivity that NELFUND has with the institutions. One of the issues that we have today is that we send the data to the institutions manually look at it and send it back to us. We're looking at technology and a technological handshake with the institutions, which is going to require quite a lot of them to upgrade. We're looking at a technological handshake that will allow us to be able to get that verification almost in real time. That's something that we're looking at and we're hoping will develop, and I think it will certainly make it faster for the students, because one of the key bottlenecks is in that final verification from the institution to say, yes, these are our students. If we can do it with a tech handshake, because the database confirms without any sort of manual input from the institution, that could work well. We're looking at those systems at the moment, and I think once we put that in place, we're going to see this work a lot better, a lot faster. To your question around dropouts, you're right. You know, it's a real challenge. If institutions say if you don't pay, you have to leave, that's a problem. What we've been doing with that is we've been alerting institutions that the following candidates, for example, have applied for the loan. by applying for the loan, even though we haven't confirmed it, we're giving advance notice to the institution to say, these people may well get the loan. Please give them access to classes. Please give them access to examinations. Our obligation to the student at that point is to tell the institution that the system or the process is in flow. So hopefully that will help reduce those who are unable to access classes or examinations and are then forced to drop out.
All right. So, Doctor, I'm sorry, Mr. Akintunde. I don't know why I kept calling you. I keep calling you Doctor. Probably you need to go for it, get more doctorate. All right. So let's even look at the issue of students at this point that are the primary constituency of the NELFUND in itself. Are there provisions even in the act that brought NELFUND into existence for universities to be sanctioned when they don't comply with some of the NELFUND's provision? Because we have students that will tell you that NELFUND has sent a letter to them, but yet the school will not comply with the NELFUND's letter, and as such they are not permitted to write exam. Are there modalities for penalties in this regards?
So not from the NELFUND end. We work with all of the other stakeholders. The Ministry of Education is the overall body that actually has the power to do the sanctioning, if you like. The Ministry of Education has a number of regulatory agencies under them that regulate the institutions that we are involved with and where these students are applying to. Universities, polytechnics, colleges of education are all regulated and can be mandated to behave in particular ways. So when you ask the question, are there sanctions? Yes, there are, but those sanctions are not from NELFUND. We're not empowered by law to sanction any institution. Once we've made payments to the institution, it really is the responsibility of the institution to ensure that students get value from the payments that have been made to them. That's really the responsibility of the institution. Of course, we will look to find ways of incentivizing the institutions to ensure that their students get value and they get that value in real time. But we are also engaging, as I said, with some of the regulatory institutions, the regulatory bodies, to ensure that they're aware of what we're doing. This is the process that is in continuous improvement. And your questions are highlighting very, very interesting and important issues. Should NELFUND be able to sanction? I don't think so. Our relationship primarily is with the students. Secondarily, it's with the institutions. But the regulatory agencies hold the responsibility for ensuring that they comply. We're talking to them all the time, and we're all trying to improve this process as we go forward.
Well, Dr. Akintunde, for most students out there, I wish I'm a student right now because it's getting interesting, because during our time in schools, we did have this opportunity to get loans from the federal government to be able to scale through the university. Some of us have to do odd jobs to get through the university, but the process, again, seems to be a bit slow if you look at it. Now, you talk about the verification exercise, and for most students that are watching us right now in Nigeria and across the world, are saying that the process seems very slow because we have to go through their BVN, have to go through the institutions, and most institutes in Nigeria, as you are aware, might not have the technological know-how to be able to fast-track this system. And curiosity would want students to begin to ask, are there no way that we could fast track this process for we to have verification through the BVN, or the schools sending students notification to the banks, and the banks in turn confirming it with NELFUND, and NELFUND in turn paying directly to the students, knowing fully well that all their data have been captured in NIMSI, in the BVN, and all of this capturing process. I don't know way to fast track this process, even as it stands right now, because Nigerian students are really feeling the brunt of all of this conversation.
Thank you. That's a really good question, and I think it's important to empathize. You know, you said something just now. You said you were a student once, and maybe you wish you could be a student again. I was a student once, and I know that when a student is waiting for money, either for their fees or for their upkeep, even if it's from their parents, it can be a harrowing experience for those who are expectant and it doesn't come. And we must never diminish the anxiety that this can cause. However, it is also important to note that we are spending or we are disbursing public funds. Therefore, in as much as we should try to make it faster, we should also ensure that we're doing it in a safe way. I think that it's important also to highlight that this process has been going for something like 240 days only, certainly less than 250 days. This means that we're still in a learning process. This is a new thing for Nigerians. It's a new thing for the government, because this type of thing hasn't really happened very much before. I know the President is very keen for this to get faster, for this to get better, for this to get smoother, and we're working very hard to ensure that. I spent this afternoon, earlier today, with someone in the legislature, and there were some students who came and they raised some of these issues and concerns. I think it's, as I said, it's important to recognize how important this is to them, but also to be able to explain what's going on and to be able to recognize that we are working on systems that will improve the speed. As of today, we've disbursed to quite a lot of students, well over 200,000, and you know, a lot of them waited quite a long time to get the disbursement, but they got it. And I think one of the things that we're having to do at the moment is just to ensure that there's trust and people know they will get it. The speed issue will follow, but we will do it carefully, and we will do it strategically, and we'll do it properly. So my appeal to students who are waiting, who've been approved and are still waiting, is that please understand this is going to be a system, a scheme that's here to stay. And at the beginning of any scheme, there are teething problems, there are teething issues. The most important thing, though, is that we're getting money to students, and we will not stop as long as they keep applying.
What a good way to even to say that, Dr. Akintunde Sonia is a very thank you so much for being a part of the show, because of course students' hopes are right now being elevated to a very certain height. But then you want to speak to Nigerian students also at this point to at least take out that fear syndrome from them right now. You want to talk to Nigerian students, if you don't mind.
Thank you for the opportunity. And really what I want the students to know is that this is a very well-intentioned program. President Tinubu means well in bringing this. His vision is to ensure that as many people who qualify get this loan, and we end this dropout rate. We end this, this cycle of stop-start, drop out of university or polytechnic or college of education and then having to go back and start again. We end this sort of endless cycle of interruptions. My message to the students is please continue to complain. Please continue to advise. Please continue to give us your own thoughts and ideas as to how we can improve this. This program, this scheme, belongs to the students, but it also belongs to all of us. So, we welcome constructive advice, constructive criticism, constructive complaints that help us make this better. We're not perfect. These schemes are never perfect. And some people are always sort of at the short, get the short end of the stick on this. But we empathize. We want to work with students. We need students. They're our future leaders. They're going to lift this country up. And I'm really proud of the students we have in this country for their patience and their understanding, and for, not dropping out when they receive the loans.
Well, I wish that Dr. Akintunde would be looking at me and say, Godwin, I wish you a student also to be able to benefit from this particular loan scheme, because it really, well, your smiles tells a lot, because some of us are not benefiting from this scheme right now, and it's sad for those of us. But of course, if you're a student, you should go out there and apply. Of course, you've gotten the confirmations and all of the confidence and of the scheme that you need from Mr. Akintunde Sonya, even
Can I
on the
make a
show.
quick
Please
comment?
go ahead,
Okay.
please.
So just for those who don't know, the portal address is www.nelf.gov.ng.
Please, can you take that again?
Yes.
Please.
So it's www.nelf.gov.ng, or you can just Google NELFUND and you'll see us pop up everywhere. Please go to that portal and apply. We want people to apply for this loan. We want them to enjoy the benefits that the administration of President Tinubu is providing for students. Thank you.
And no payment allowed on that portal. No payment.
No payment. Nobody anywhere should be paying for anything other than data. The data that they need to connect is what they pay for, and they buy that themselves and load it either into their device, their laptop, their phone, but they should not be paying anybody for this. This is a completely tech-based platform. There's no human interface. If anybody tells you that you need to pay them to help you fill your form, please do not do that. Apart from the fact that it's illegal and it's against our guidelines, you might also be a victim of identity theft. You must do this yourself.
Interesting. Well, Mr. Akintunde Sonya, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the desk today on Global Television.
Thank you.
And hope when that's good, you'll be available for us.
Whenever you need me, I'm available for the students. We're here to serve the students. There's availability is not a big deal, as long as it's to talk about NELFUND, to talk about the loan, and to talk to the Nigerian public about what we're doing with their money.
All right, we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, the desk continues in a moment. Please go nowhere. Welcome back. In a bid to boost the capacity of cottage industries in the country, the Nigerian Promotion Council has reaffirmed its commitment to ensure that small and medium enterprises are given the necessary assistance to grow and impact more significantly on the Nigerian economy. Well, during one of the speeches by the CEO and also the director of the NSC, Awolowo also explained that in order for the council to render significant assistance, that they would develop the Export Development Fund (EDF), targeting the growth of MSMEs in the country. Further explained that the funds will allow shipments incentives to SMEs in the country. Well, let's even look at the issues around the Nigerian cottage industry this afternoon and this evening. I beg your pardon, and joining me to talk about this conversation is Dr. Alima, who is a special advisor to the Senate President. He's a special legislative aide, I beg your pardon, to the Senate President. But first, let me welcome you to the show. You're welcome to the desk.
Thank you very much.
All right, so what do you make of the various sustainable growth within the cottage industry?
Yeah, all right. Let us look at what cottage industry is all about for more clarification. Yeah, because this is a sector, it's an industry that represents the heritage of Africa and Nigeria. This is where we see one of our heritage. This comprises of the small-scale businesses which operate from their homes or their communities that engage into business activities and manufacturing activities at the lower level. Yeah, so this is the what's the cottage industries, and we were looking at okay, some of the examples are okay. Let us say furniture making, weaving, leather making, soap making, all those things. I call it a heritage because we found that this is what we inherited, and it has a long way to give a great impact toward the growth of the Nigerian economy if carefully looked at and being attention is given to that sector.
All right, Dr. Alima, yes. Usman, to a very large extent, we've seen Nigerian government in, government out, being able to shy away from having a conversation even around the cottage industry. I am at this point curious to ask, are we ready for the cottage conversation even as a country and as a people?
Yeah, we are, because we can't shy away from who we are. Because I said this is what we have inherited from forefathers. Okay, look at it. This is what, in fact, when you look at the future of the Nigerian economy of Africa, this is what we are being described or identified. We worked up, if you can see that, okay, you walk up into families and see, we have one or two skills that we inherited and we specialize in it that is being done at that lower level. Now the discussion on how to now integrate it, all right? And okay, how do we integrate it? And there's a very important key there. For example, many of it we say we want to produce more, we want to engage in this business to a larger or higher level than what we are operating, but they spoke about electrification, powering. They need electricity in order to produce more than what they are producing. So we are now looking at what are the other ways of powering these cottage industries. We believe that we all know that they have significant impact to an economic growth to a certain level, and if carefully looked at, can be transformed into these targeted export zones. Because when you look at it, this, if we specify those specific areas that is being needed, we can transform it from the domestic market, which will lead to an international market. So,
but to a very large extent, we've seen conversations even that borders on the cottage industry.
Yeah.
And those conversations tend to be a surface for the cottage conversation, or we should rather be doing more of import, and even importing of skills, importing of knowledge, importing of technology to be able to address some of these cottage concerns that we have in the country that seems as though we are not ready for that conversation.
Okay, I would say we are ready to say. Yeah, I would say we are ready because this is what we are experiencing. It's already in practice. And we can see that a lot of Nigerians are trying to display their own specialists. A lot of Nigerians are looking on to doing what they can do best in it. All right. So, and also afraid that this will help towards increasing and also integrating our export processing zones. For example, now, if you look at this, we can easily identify in the different geopolitical zones what we specialize in. Attention can be given into it, and this particular sector can be producing. They are ready, but we can help them to see how they can integrate their production that we target the foreign market. So, for example, now if we identify that, okay, cotton is a very one of the demanded goods in the foreign market, then we identify those particular states or region that are good indeed, they can produce it, they can process it, then attention be given in that particular sector so that it will be one of the demanded product that will help the country to boost its production level and also income generation. Right? This can be one of the revenue generation to the country, and it will help to create employment, because when there's boost in that particular sector, it can help. So I'm specifically looking at the powering of this sector. It's one of the challenges that we do have, powering of these sectors, because a lot of them depend on the maybe electrification through the non-renewable. When I talk about non-renewable energy, these are electrification or energy that is being produced through a finite or limited source, non-renewable. For example, we have the petroleum, the gas. These are fossil soil, and they replenish in nature. They runs out. That's why people find it very expensive for a village craftsman who have the skilled, want to do more. If he's producing, let us say 10, 20 daily of quantity of what he's producing, but because of the electrification, he's somehow handicapped to do more than what he can do. Then the question here is that, is there an option? The answer is yes, there's option. We can look at the other source of powering electrification. In fact, when you look at it, that most of the developed countries now are moving from the non-renewable source of energy, okay, to the renewable source of energy. And we have this in abundance, and they doesn't replenish, all right? They don't run out. For example, now, I'm specifically looking at the Nigerian economy to utilize renewable source of energy for the cottage industries. If this will be duplicated, if this one will be encouraged, the cottage industry will do a lot, will contribute toward the growth of the Nigerian economy. Yeah. So when you look at under the renewable energy, we have energy being generated toward from sunlight. That is when we are looking at solar. Solar is a source of electrification. All right. So if the petroleum and gas is too expensive for the cottage industry to realize, then we have the solar system, solar energy, which can be tapped from the sunlight, and sunlight is in abundant. I can see, looking at the previous 2024 budget, I can see a lot of bills and a lot of projects that has been considered toward solar electrification in the rural areas, which will help to boost. So if the cottage industry can utilize this sum, it's going to help a long way to go. Another source of renewable energy is wind. Yeah, we can generate electrification for this industry through wind, all right, via the wind turbines. As the wind is circulating, is generating electrification, all right, which can a person who operates in his community with his own, because this cottage industry usually they utilize their own resources. They domicile in their community or their houses, and they utilize their resources. So if they can get that, that will help them a long way to go.
Well, let me even interrupt you, Dr. Alima.
Yeah.
To a very large extent, it has become very obvious that the Nigerian cottage industry is being manned in terms of its manpower by a lot of unskilled and untrained professionals, which we called, most of them are not, they are not that skilled in terms of getting university education and also going to get professional craft, but rather they've gotten all the informal kind of education, not the kind of degrees that we want. Now, as a country that wants to dabble and delve into this sector and become the powerhouse for Africa to look up to in terms of our cottage industry, all of this narrative being, all of these indices being put together, does it indicate that as a country in the next couple of years we'll be able to surmount the various pressures that comes with the cottage industry and be able to revolutionize the cottage industry?
Yeah, I'm looking at it at this this angle, as I said earlier on, that these industries, if adequately been taken care of, guided, they are going to improve to the level that will help the Nigerian economy to achieve sustainable growth to an extent. Yeah, remember, you made mention of some are not that skills, some didn't get the formal education in respect to that. Yeah, but when you look at it, is that at the recent there are trainings going on and empowering, all right, training them on how they can sharpen their skills to do better in that particular areas. I have throughout the I've witnessed some of the trainings that what was going to help women in the village. Yeah, women in the village, how they can handle some of the sectors that they are into it, which is doing locally. But if being managed with the training now, it helps them to sharpen their skills. It helps them to have a focus, all right, and it also gives them a prospect, because by the time they understand that there is a lot of potentials and prospects in what they are doing, they will now put more interest and they will love what they are doing, and they will be able to now concentrate to do a lot. This will help in a very vital role to help to reduce the level of poverty in the country, and this will help to reduce the level of graduate looking for white-collar jobs. For example, now we are all interested at the moment. Now we are looking at China as a country. Look at China. These are what they concentrated, and they were able to boost their economy. Whatever sector you look at it, they sharpen their skills, they modernize it, they bring up a lot of innovations, and they are good in it.
Well, Dr. Aisha, let's take this as cottage conversation part 1, because I'm being signaled right now that it's time to go. But I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the desk this evening. Now, we'll continue on this conversation even on some other time here on the desk to be able to cross the T's and dot the I's. Of course, our viewers out there are curious to know some of the benefits that accrue to the cottage industry in Nigeria. We've not spoken about the benefit, remember?
Yeah.
So I have to bring you back even on this table to talk about this. But I want to say, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
All right. At this point in time, I want to say thank you so much for also staying with us till this time, even on the desk. Of course, we know that we've been able to bring you value even of this evening. But always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Till I come your way on the desk again, I am Godwin Sunday. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Up next is the news. Bye for now.